push forward toward the last opportunity to state a case for ourselves in terms of how we divide the labor up and so forth. And so there's urgency, as the saying runs through the hourglass, and there's no needed denying that. We're respectful of this process and where we are in it, and so that's why we're preparing with an edge, being sensitive to those that are working their tails off to find space, and excited that is the opportunity tomorrow night.
What a way to say this is about to be our last preseason game. Big Deke news. So Thursday night, we'll wrap up the Steelers 2025 preseason. The game time is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, and it is at the Carolina Panthers. It's looking like Carolina is not going to be putting their starters out there, but there are some rumblings that since the Carolina ones haven't been doing so hot so far in preseason, that David Canales could change his mind, but the plan is for the Carolina starters to not play. On the flip side, for the Steelers, we're probably going to be seeing some snaps from key guys that we haven't seen yet, all but 4 players, and those 4 are Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Cam Hayward, and TJ Watt. Tomlin said everyone else is up for conversation if healthy.
There's really 4 guys that I'm not considering playing, Cam, TJ, Aaron, and DK. Everyone else is under consideration. They're preparing as if they're going to play. There are a lot of variables in it, who's playing for Carolina and things of that nature that might provide worthy competition. But as I sit here today, all healthy outside of the 4 that I mentioned are preparing and scheduled to play.
So that means Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Patrick Queen, Deshaun Elliott, Jonnu Smith, Freiermuth. It makes for a little bit more interesting of a watch, but I don't need to see them. I don't need to see any of the starters. I don't need to see any of the big names, the key players. I've been saying the same thing over the last however many preseasons. Health is the most important thing going into week 1.
To see out of this final preseason game, final dress rehearsal before it all starts to count.
Health. Everybody getting through healthy. Most important thing.
I mean, we saw what happened when Kenny and company really ran it up in the 2023 preseason and how all those reps translated into week 1 success for us, right? I think you see my point. I don't need to see Jalen Ramsey or Patrick Queen getting preseason reps or preseason work. Like, that's not proving anything to me. That's not getting them any more ready for week 1 or anything like that. What's getting them best ready, what's getting the team best ready is for them to be fully healthy when the regular season rolls around. But clearly the door is open, according to Tomlin, for them to play. Now, before this final preseason game, I wanted to get out my 53-man roster prediction, who I think is going to make the team after 2 preseason games have already happened, after training camp has already happened. And I went through the depth chart, made a list. I have 42 guys that are locked in. So I'm going to go over those 42 names, and then we obviously then have a remaining 11. So what I'm going to do is literally look at the depth chart and go over those 11 players that I think are going to make the team, like live, just knee-jerk reaction, who's going to make it. So the locks, I don't think there's any debate to this. Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard. Now, the quarterback situation could get a little dicey depending on Will Howard's injury, what we do with him in terms of IR, because there is a world where we do keep Skylar Thompson as the 3rd quarterback for maybe the first 4 weeks of the season because we put Will Howard on IR. But I think when it's all said and done, the 3 quarterbacks on this roster are going to be Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard. Because if we do the whole IR thing, I feel like you are going to have to make room for Will Howard coming off of IR, and that's going to mean either you release Skylar Thompson or trade Skylar Thompson. So those are my 3 quarterbacks: Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard. We're not keeping 4 quarterbacks. We're not. Only stupid teams do that, like the Browns. Running backs: Jaylen Warren, Caleb Johnson, Kenneth Gainwell. That's your 3 right there. Receiver locks: DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin. Those are the only 3 that I have as locks. Obviously going to be more receivers that make the team, but that's a total of 9 right now. At 10, Muth, 11, Jonnu, 12, Darnell. So that's 3 tight ends right there. O-linemen, I think, are locks: Broderick Jones, Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Troy Fautanu, Ryan McCollum, and Spencer Anderson, 2 backups. Defensive line, Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Derek Harmon, Y.A. Black. Edge rushers, T.J. Watt, Highsmith, Jack Sawyer, Nick Herbig. Inside linebackers, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb, Malik Harrison. Cornerbacks, JPJ, Ramsey, Slay, Brandon Eccles. Safeties, Chuck Clark, Juan Thornhill, Deshaun Elliott, Miles Killebrew. And then Boz, and then Christian Kuntz, long snapper. It's either going to be him or the guy that we picked up. There's going to be a long snapper on this team. And then the punter. I don't know who the punter's going to be. We got a battle between Cam Johnson and Corliss Waitman. Don't know, but obviously we're going to have a punter. So that's 42. I just rattled off the 42 locks. Let's go over the 11 open spots. For 43, I'm going to say Scotty Miller. I don't have him as a lock, but maybe I should have, honestly. I think Scotty Miller's definitely going to make it. We've heard glowing reports about him coming out of training camp that he's been killing it, but then we've also seen him step up in the preseason. So that would make for the fourth receiver. I don't know what we're doing in terms of Gabe Davis. Are we picking up Gabe Davis? Are we picking up another receiver? Are we only keeping 5 receivers? Because potentially we're going to keep 4 tight ends. So let me just say that. Connor Hayward. I think Connor Hayward is going to make the team. Well, he'll be the 44th name. Connor Hayward. I think his last name helps him. But I also think Aaron Rodgers likes Connor Hayward a lot. And I think it fits with the Arthur Smith mentality, the heavy personnel, the versatility. I do think Connor Hayward makes the team. So that's 44. We need some more. Let me get back to receiver. I kind of just skipped over receiver there because we at least need one more name. And right now it would be between Robert Woods and Ben Skoranek for the 5th guy. But do they both make it? And we do 6 receivers, but are we potentially bringing in a guy from the outside? So those are my questions at receiver right now. We're definitely having one more, though. Let's just go to offensive line. We'll get back to receiver. I already said Spencer Anderson, Ryan McCollum. I would say Dylan Cook makes it, and Calvin Anderson. Actually, no. Andrews Pete. I forgot we picked him up. He's coming off a good preseason performance, or a good Week 2 preseason performance on Saturday. So I'm going to go Andrews Pete, and then the last spot I would guess is between Calvin Anderson and Dylan Cook. I'll go with Dylan Cook. Andrews Pete, Dylan Cook, Ryan McCollum, Spencer Anderson. I think that's 9 offensive linemen right there. Dylan Cook has some versatility. Actually, Calvin Anderson has some versatility too. Yeah, it's between those two. I'll go Dylan Cook. Andrews Pete, Dylan Cook, Ryan McCollum, Spencer Anderson. Those are the 4 backups on top of the 5 starting offensive linemen. So that's 9 total. So that's 2 extra names right there. Connor Hayward was 44. That's 45, 46. We have 7 more spots available. We got to go to defensive line because I only said Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Derek Harmon, and Y.A. Black. So there's a couple more openings there. I'm going to go with Logan Lee and Daniel Aquale for 2 more spots. So that gets us up to 48. That's it right now. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't know about Loudermilk. What about DeMarvin Leal? I think maybe between those 2 are like that last defensive line spot. We'll get back to that. Secondary, let's go back to that. I think Beanie Bishop makes it. So that's 49. I think it comes down to like Corey Trice versus Dante Kent, James Pierre. We were talking about this. And don't forget maybe Mark Robinson too, or Carson Bruner as an extra inside linebacker. I do think we're going to keep 5. So let's say, man, is it going to be Carson Bruner because of the name? I can see them releasing Bruner and putting him on practice squad. So let's go with Mark Robinson for that 5th inside linebacker. That's definitely something that we do. That would be 49, I believe. So we have a few more spots left. 50, 51, 52, 53. Corner. There's definitely one more corner. It's between Trice, Dante Kent, James Pierre. Trice has been injured. Kent's been injured. James Pierre's been healthy. What do we value there? Do we value the Corey Trice upside? The fact that we drafted Dante Kent 7th round, or like James Pierre can actually potentially help us on special team. I would guess James Pierre then. I would in this case, I would go James Pierre. We were having this debate between Will Howard and Skylar Thompson, right? Skylar Thompson's been healthy, he's done good in preseason, but I think this is different where James Pierre could actually give you snaps. Will Howard's never going to give you snaps. Skylar Thompson's never going to give you snaps. So you need to decide on projection and upside in that case when you're talking about your third quarterback. This one, if you're talking about like your last cornerback, who's actually going to give you special teams? So I'm going to guess James Pierre there. So that gets us to 50. We have 3 more spots. You know what? I did some recalculations. Actually, it's 2. Wrote the names down so I could keep track, and we are 2 names away from 53. Scotty Miller, 43. Connor Hayward, 44. Dylan Cook, 45. Andrews Pete, 46. Logan Lee, 47. Daniel Qualley, 48. Beanie Bishop, 49. Mark Robinson at 50. And then James Pierre at 51. So 2 more. We have 2 more. And that would leave the extra D lineman and the extra receiver. It would only be 5 receivers then. Yeah, because we're keeping Connor Hayward as our 4th tight end. I could see that. I could see us keeping Connor Hayward over an extra receiver. That makes sense to me. So it comes down to Ben Skoranek versus Robert Woods. I would say Ben Skoranek, although he's been hurt. But Robert Woods hasn't done anything. Ben Skoranek has the blocking ability. I would say Ben Skoranek. That would be my guess as the 5th receiver. Given that also too, Pat Fryermuth, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, Connor Hayward, they're going to act as receivers in different situations. So I could see them going Ben Skoranek there. It's not like we only have DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, and Scotty Miller as receiving threats. Don't forget Kenneth Gainwell too, coming out of the backfield, Jaylen Warren. So now we're down to that extra defensive lineman between Isaiah Loudermilk and DeMarvin Leal. Man, how much faith do we have in Y.A. Black? If we have a lot of faith in Y.A. Black, then I could see us keeping DeMarvin Leal. He could be a pseudo edge rusher for us and also interior defensive lineman. We know the talent that he had coming out of Texas A&M. Like, he's definitely more talented than Isaiah Loudermilk, but he hasn't really lived up. Isaiah Loudermilk's more of just that steady guy, but not as high of a ceiling. So I'm going to go DeMarvin Leal. DeMarvin Leal is that last guy. I think we do have faith in Y.A. Black, giving us some snaps as being a big interior defensive lineman for us, a run stopper. So that means, and if we're keeping Daniel Qualley too, a little bit of overlap there, whereas DeMarvin Leal provides more versatility across that defensive line. So that's my 53. That's my 53 right there. At the end of it, we're keeping 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 5 receivers, 4 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen. How many D linemen? I think 7 D linemen if you include DeMarvin Leal, 4 edge rushers, 5 inside linebackers, 6 corners, 4 safeties, a kicker, punter, and long snapper. Let me know what you guys think, where I got it right, where I got it wrong. But I think that's a pretty damn good list. Now, listen, we still may make another move at receiver. That makes one of those guys expendable. Probably Ben Skoranek. Either Ben Skoranek or Scotty Miller of that group. But that's the list. They're also talking about potentially bringing in another interior offensive lineman. Dalton Reisner is considering visiting with us. Do we even want him if he's considering visiting with us? He's visiting with other teams. And he's like, I'm considering visiting with the Steelers. He wouldn't be a bad backup to have, though. He's been a starter in this league for the last, 4 or 5 seasons. Started, 80-plus games. Not the best or anything, but if you're talking about a backup as, your backup guard or backup interior offensive lineman, wouldn't be a bad option to have. So that may throw another wrinkle into the 53-man roster. He would make a spot probably over either Dylan Cook or Andrews Pete. I would say Dylan Cook would be the outman looking in then, because Andrews Pete, what he's been able to do in the league thus far, make Pro Bowls, play both tackle and guard position, I think we'd hang our hat on that more than Dylan Cook's potential. That's it for today's show, though. Let me know, again, where I got things right, where I got it wrong, down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed. Stay chilling. Peace.